Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here. It's going to be my patch 10.2 Affliction Warlock DPS guide and video. And we're going to be covering talents, specs, builds, rotations, and basically everything you need to know about Affliction Warlock heading into patch 10.2, Season 3, and Amirjacil. Now, like always, if you guys would like any week horrors or add-ons to see in the video, links to my Twitch and Discord down below are for free for you guys. At the same time, like always, a huge shout out to my patrons for getting too far in the video. For all support on Patreon, guys, thank you a million times. I really appreciate it. If you'd like to support on Patreon or anything like that, links appear as well as down below in the video description. And yeah, let's get into it. So when you're looking at Affliction's tier bonus in patch 10.2, it revolves around the ability Soul Rot. Soul Rot is a N-tier capstone-based talent for Affliction, which is typically played in most builds currently on retail. And it says, whenever you cast your Soul Rot, your next 3 Malefic Raptures or Seed of Corruption casts are increased by 50% for Rapture or 60% for Seed of Corruption. Now, that's the 4-piece, basically. The 2-piece just increases Soul Rot damage, and it lasts a bit longer. The 4 pieces where most of the power lies in this set bonus. Now, the cool thing about it is it happens whenever you cast Soul Rot. There's an ability called Soul Eater's Gluttony below Soul Rot that reduces the cooldown by 15 at rank 1 and 30 at rank 2 for a baseline 1-minute cooldown. So you can make it half a minute, essentially doubling the amount of procs, or I guess, effects you can get from casting Soul Rot twice as often, being every half a minute. That half-minute cooldown also syncs perfectly with Vile Taint for larger Rapture windows, AOE Agony reapplications, and plus, whatever you're looking for. Now, when it comes to just using it rotationally, I mean, you're going to open up normally if you're doing single-target things by precasting Haunt, UA, putting up your dots. We'll cover this more in the rotation section as well. Doing this, putting up your Vile Taint, draining for Shadow's Embrace stacks, Vile Tainting, just casting Soul Rot, and then going into your Dark Lair. These 3 Raptures are empowered by Umbra Fire Kindling. So I cast one here, hit for 145k. At the same time, it also empowers Seed of Corruption. Now, chances are high when the patch goes live, it'll be fixed. But currently, the Seed of Corruption part has been bugged since day 1 of the tier bonus being a thing. It's only the bug currently is that it's only increasing the damage of 1 of the 3 seeds you cast when you are playing Sow the Seeds, which gives you, 3 seeds from 1 Sow cast. So or 3 seeds from 1 seed cast with, so you know what I mean. Hopefully it's fixed. If it is fixed, it's a large boost to AF's AOE. If it's not, well, we'll see what happens. It was bugged for all of 10.0 and didn't get fixed, but we'll see what happens. And even when it comes to single target, when you're casting, Rapture and Vile Taint every half a minute, it gives you a relatively strong burst profile every 30 seconds, which is a pretty unique profile when it comes to rating and plus alike, one that's relatively sought after in both settings. So when we're looking at Affliction talents in patch 10.2, being honest, not a whole lot's really changed from patch 10.1 and even 10.0 in a sense, outside the fact that you're playing Soul Rot with Soul Eater's Gluttony now. Your tier bonus, whenever you cast Soul Rot, it gives you a buff to your next 3 Rapture cast or next 3 Seed of Corruption cast, which means that if you can reduce the cooldown of Soul Rot by half, from a minute to half a minute, you get your tier bonus twice as often. Now, Soul Eater's Gluttony was changed in patch 10.2 to be a flat 15 and 30 second cooldown reduction instead of being based around CDR with Unstable Affliction. So this basically syncs at 2 points your Soul Rot perfectly to your Vile Taint. At 1 point, it syncs it perfectly to your PS being 45 and 45. Now, there were some builds that played PS and single target towards the end of 10.15, but I really think just having your tier bonus more often, every half a minute with Vile Taint and double Gluttony is the way to be in single target. So this is the build I would play in single target for Affliction Warlock heading into patch 10.2. You're playing Dread Touch, like usual, Creeping Death, playing Double Xavier's Gambit, Crescendo, Haunt, Dark Lair. You're playing a point in Soul Rot and 2 points in Soul Eater's Gluttony. Besides that, it's the same thing. You're playing Siphon Life. It is still around, unfortunately. Some fights this tier you can make use of Soul Swap on, like Naimu, decent Soul Swap boss, Pandemic Invocation, Drain Soul, all that. Playing Sack Souls. If you sack your Voidwalker, you get the ability Shadow Bulwark and Raiding if you don't need a kick or anything, which is a large health increase, pretty good defensive. I think it's a little underrated and things. So overall, in single target, this is where I'd start as an Afflock in patch 10.2. Mostly in raid settings. If you're looking for a bit of more of a Cleave raid build, still maintaining single target elements, I would play something like this. This is the Aff raid Cleave build, and there's some, I guess, nuances to this build, right? Now, if you're in a heavy Cleave setting, like Gnarl Root, the first boss, where you want to cast Seed of Corruption, so the seeds quite often, you can play a point in Seed and play a point in Sow. If you're not looking for that heavy sustained Seed spam profile, But some points in the fight add spawn, and you want to apply Corruption, you can just play a point in Seed, pull this point here, put it in Pandemic Invocation for a little more single target, and still have that ability to spread Corruption, but not be spamming it a bunch in AoE if you want. So that varies a little bit, but the, I guess, general, hey, I want an AoE build while doing single target damage this is where I'd start. Still playing Dread Touch, still playing Haunt, still playing Dark Lair, still playing Soul Rot, and still playing 2 points in Soul Eater's Gluttony. Keep in mind, Vile Taint also applies Agony to every mob hit. You can sync it perfectly with Soul Rot and also Vile Taint. And once again, like I mentioned already, your tier bonus buffs your next 3 Malefic Rapture or Seed of Corruption cast whenever you cast Soul Rot. So at certain points, you might want to Rapture a bit with that bonus. Other points in a fight, if you're AoEing, might want to cast Seed a bit for a lot of damage. Now, we're also playing Soul Flame here. Once again, a fight with adds, even every once in a while. When they all explode at once, Soul Flame does some damage when it comes to, like, you know, I guess single target relevancy, but it's a good all-around effect. ID still very undertuned this tier. Likely hasn't played anywhere, maybe on one fight, but for the most part, this is the general AF raid, like Cleave build that I like to play on most fights. You're gonna be cleaving on as AF in 10.2 and Emir Still. When it comes to M+, there have been a handful of builds AF has played in patch 10.15 and 10.1. I think this is where I'm going to start in patch 10.2. I think this is likely the best build. Now, a lot of builds in 10.15 have, most of them honestly, have just played Malevolent Visionary and Grim Reach while just playing baseline Soul Rot for the damage application, the increase to Visionary, all that kind of stuff. In patch 10.2, once again, your Soul Rot gives you an increase whenever you cast it to Rapture or Seed of Corruption, which means you pretty much are guaranteed that you want to invest 2 points in Gluttony to sync with Vile Taint and get it twice as often in every scenario. So if you invest 2 points into Gluttony, playing Soul Rot, obviously, you're playing Doom Blossom, obviously, in AoE, it's very, very good. You're playing Haunt for more prior damage, and you're likely playing Dark Lair. You have 1 floater point left here, which I'm assuming is just going to be like Dark Harvest based. There could be like merit to playing Wrath of Consumption here, and plus, or like sustained, I guess settings where mobs are dying consistently, you can chain the buff. I've seen some people playing it in Crescendo here. I've seen some Dark Lairless builds with the changes to Gluttony being half a minute exactly. Soul Rot and Vile Taint sync much better. This, I think, is likely where you want to be when it comes to starting off in 10.2 Mythic Plus as Affliction. There might be a shift at some point, but this is what I'm betting on. And it looks to be like your hand is relatively forced when it comes to most builds here, because you're investing 4 points in this row, whether you're playing Dread Touch and single target or Doom Blossom and AoE. Typically a point in Dark Lair, typically a point in Haunt, and typically, 3 points here, 1 and 2. So that's where I'm at in single target, ST like Prio Cleave, and AoE when it comes to M+ in patch 10.2. Links to all the builds down below. Now, when it comes to Affliction Warlock and single target, the rotation's not as complicated as it may seem, that we're going to talk about here in a minute once you get the hang of it. But there is a lot of maintenance, a little bit of button bloat, just things haven't really changed with AF since a little while. But there has been some good quality of life increases over the past few patches and builds. Now, we're going to play the Soul Rot Vile Taint build here, double Gluttony, so that half a minute Soul Rot Vile Taint window. You don't have much leeway when it comes to having like very little shard gen, or like if you don't get many like Soul Conduit refunds or PI procs or Crescendo procs, it can be a little tough to maintain Dread Touch the whole time if you overspend in your opener or in your Rapture windows with Malefic Rapture. So it's important to keep that in mind and apply logic every cycle, because every opener, every window is different. So we're going to go into this here. We're going to precast Haunt where the boss is pulled, Unstable Affliction, Agony, Corruption, Siphon Life, Shadow, or Drain Soul for 3 stacks of Shadow's Embrace. There's 2, there's 3. Cast Vile Taint, cast Soul Rot, Trinkets, Potions, whatever, and then cast Dark Lair, and then begin Rapturing. Now I have 2 Crescendo procs here, so I get 2 free Raptures in a sense. We're going to Rapture a little bit here, then cast a Drain Soul, refresh my Haunt right about here as well. I got a proc again there, so I can spend that. Going to cast a Drain here, got a proc there, going to spend that. Watching my Vile Taint and Soul Rot timers. One more for the road here, catch that, cool. Refresh Corruption, Siphon Life, Unstable Affliction, Drain a little bit, watching Dread Touch here. Need to Rapture about now to catch it. We got a proc there, refresh Haunt, and once again, we have Vile Taint and Soul Rot back up already. We're going to cast them both, going to refresh Corruption, cast a few Raptures, 1, 2, 3 being the ones buffed by the actual tier bonus. Cast some Drain Souls, why not, cast a Rapture there. One more for the road here before it expires maybe. I was a little late, it's alright. Catch your Haunt. And the big thing here is watching dots. Just micromanaging dots, refreshing them in pandemic windows, catching your Dread Touch right there. Make sure you keep it up. Catch your Agony about here. And keep in mind, you have Vile Taint and Soul Rot literally, again, right now. Once again, very little bit of downtime between Rapture windows as Affliction. Now we're running a little short on shards here. We're going to refresh Haunt, hope for a proc on that Drain Soul. Crescendo didn't get one. Hoping for a proc a second here to save me from the Threat Touch falling. We got a shard back. That's nice. Going to drain again here. Didn't get a proc. Well, we got one there, so there's that. We're going to drain again. Drag it out a little bit. Rapture right there to refresh. Playing it close to the chest so you don't overspend, basically. Dragging these procs out for max Dread Touch value. Going to Rapture again there to refresh Dread Touch. Catch your dots here. And we have Vile Taint and Soul Rot up again right now. So you're going to Rapture once. I'm actually going to hold the second one a little bit here to drag it out because we're running on shards, running on fumes here. Rapture again here. Catch the Corruption. Rapture again here. Refresh Agony. Or Haunt. And then, for the most part, just watching my Vile Taint Soul Rot timers again here because we have Dark Glare in about 10 seconds and we have these two in about 12. Rapturing again to refresh Dread Touch. Rapturing again to refresh Dread Touch. Catch dots here. Refresh my Haunt a little early. Refresh my UA. My Siphon Life. I'm going to Rapture once here to catch Dread Touch. Then go Vile Taint. Soul Rot. Trinkets, Potions. And your Dark Glare. And you're Rapturing again. Catch your Shadow's Embrace with Drain Soul. There we go. And you're Rapturing again. 2 Raptures, 3 Raptures. Dump 1 for the road here. Why not? Refresh your Haunt. You can delay Haunt refreshes a little bit as well when you're like in your Rapture windows, because keep in mind your bonus does also extend Haunt as well as your main dots. But that's it. The big thing with AF is making sure you maintain your Dread Touch and finding that middle ground of you want to Rapture as much as possible during your Vile Taint and Soul Rot applications, but not too much where you run out of shards and you can't refresh your Dread Touch. You want as close to 100% uptime on Dread Touch as possible. And at the same time, you don't want to be too late on these casts of Vile Taint and Soul Rot, because if you are, they're exactly half a minute. Dark Glare is 2 minutes. So if you're 10 seconds late on one and 5 on the other, you're basically wasting 20 seconds, which is almost a whole window, and it depairs from Dark Glare. So AF is not as complicated as it may seem once you get the flow of it, but getting the flow of it is probably the more challenging part of Affliction in 10.2. Now, when it comes to the AOE rotation of Affliction in Mythic Plus, Vile Taint, keep in mind, is half-minute cooldown. So is Soul Rot with Slaughter's Gluttony. And your tier bonus, whenever you cast Soul Rot, it buffs your next 3 seed corruptions by 60%. So every time you cast your Soul Rot, your seeds do 60% more damage. That syncs with Vile Taint. It's actually a pretty solid window of damage, and you're also playing, down here, Dark Harvest, at least with this build you are, which increases your haste and crit by 2.5% for 8 seconds per target hit by your Soul Rot. So you're looking at about a 10% haste and crit amp on top of everything else. It leads to some pretty, I guess, strong burst windows with Seed. You're also playing Doom Blossom, so you want to make sure you have Unstable Affliction applied to a mob for that extra Doom Blossom damage and all that. And AF will burst a good bit. So we're going to pull up details here, and we can look at the damage burst briefly. Now, when it comes to plus, keep in mind, like, from one pack to another, you're often, draining, like, drain souling mobs, going from one pack to the next with, like, 4 or 5 shards. Here, I'm starting with 3. So I don't have as many shards as I usually would, but either way, I mean, you can micromanage a bit more in plus, but the opener is still relatively the same. So we're going to open up, let's say this is the mob I want to hit here. We're going to precast a Haunt when the tank's running in, pulling the pack into Unstable Affliction. I'm going to go Seed, Vile Taint, Soul Rot, Trinkets, Potions, whatever, and cast your Dark Glare and begin spamming Seeds. Now, I'm not casting Siphon Life here because we're not playing Grim Reach anymore. You can just spam Seed. You can see it does a good bit of damage. I'll catch my Haunt here in a second. Now, I mean, if you want like a little more prio, you can apply Siphon Life, I suppose, but the main reason we applied Siphon Life in the previous patch was because Siphon Life would increase the damage of Grim Reach. I'm not playing Grim Reach in this build, we're playing Soldier's Gluttony instead. Now, the awkward part of Affliction is I had to manually refresh all of my agonies there, but I have Vile Taint up now, with Soul Rot again. And I also have Haunt to refresh everything else. I can cast Seed, cast some more buff Seeds for more damage, but AF still has that odd window of, hey, I have to manually refresh agonies between every single Vile Taint cast. That's one of the big things that makes AF, I guess, clunky, you can say, in Mythic Plus, because I have to manually do this. Refresh. Look at my Vile Taint cooldown. I have to refresh all these agonies manually, and oh look, 5 seconds later, I have Vile Taint again. Unfortunately, Vile Taint's a half-minute cooldown. It used to be 20, but it was changed during beta, and we've had this weird, like, awkward, hey, I want to Vile Taint every 20 seconds, but I can't because it was changed for some reason. So, AF is still strong when it comes to burst damage and plus, still competitive and all that, but it leads to some awkward sequencing of having to manually babysit your agonies, watch your unstable affliction for Doom Blossom damage, which is increased by Seed of Corruption, and all of that. It's not some just put out Vial Taint, cast Seed, and just spam Seed for eternity. You have to like sort of micromanage dots, even though dots aren't even a huge part of your damage overall, because of just the awkward timing on Vial Taint and everything else. But in the end, AF can put out good, strong, competitive damage in AoE every half minute, with Soul Rot being 30 seconds. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully the video answered any questions you might have had about Affliction Warlock heading into patch 10.2 Season 3, and, well, I guess also Yggdrasil. I think Affliction's in an okay spot this tier. It might not be as good as Demonology in pure single target, but it has mobility. And I think for a Rapture-based version of Affliction, it's probably not getting much better, barring some other changes coming, which maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, in 11.0. Links to all the talent builds down below if you want them, like I said. Also, Leak Wars add-ons down there if you want them. Links to my Twitch and Discord were all for free for you guys. Before we end the video, again, I want to give one huge shout-out again to my patrons for all support on Patreon. Like always, thank you a million times, guys. I really appreciate it. It allows me to keep doing what I'm doing for you guys and making content, and yeah, I appreciate all support. If you look at supporting on Patreon, should be a link up here, as well as down below in the video description. We will see what the next few weeks hold. I think overall, AF is looking pretty solid, like I said. A bit better than Destro, and I think it's being slept on a little bit when it comes to Yggdrasil. Even when it comes to Mythic Plus, the seed bonus, like so the seeds, I guess Seed of Corruption, has been bugged all of PTR. It's still bugged right now when I'm recording this video. If and when they fix the bugs, I think AF may jump a bit in people's rankings for M+ and how good Lock is there. So we'll see where it goes. All that being said, if you like the video, hit the like and sub buttons below. Helps out a ton. I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.